Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is actually a client highlight, and her name is Jessica. And actually on our social media pages, our Instagram, Facebook, and I connect it with Twitter, but I don't really get on Twitter, so it's probably on Twitter, hopefully on Twitter. But our social media pages, we posted a picture of Jessica yesterday. So she actually competed this past weekend in her first figure competition. So Jessica is actually a mother of five. Holy freaking crap. So she did excellent. She's a mother of five, and she had always wanted to do a show since she was 19 years old and just didn't have the confidence when she was younger. Then you get into having kids and making a family and stuff, and you kind of just deem yourself too busy to do it. So what I thought would be fun was to kind of show what we did to help this mom of five finally fulfill her dream of competing in a figure show, sorry. And the reason why I think it's helpful for people to maybe get a case study is seeing, this is going to be like kind of like a Debbie Downer moment, so prepare yourself. Get ready, toughen your skin, thicken your skin up a little bit here. But nothing special needed done. So she's a mother of five, and she was already relatively physically fit, but she needed to get stronger. She needed to create some shape. She needed to lose fat. So she had to go from kind of like a mom body to what would needed on stage, and she was able to do it through things that weren't really earth shattering. It's just kind of all the things we already teach, but she actually adhered to it, stayed accountable, and decided to finally just frickin' do the crap. So that's often what it takes, and we're going to talk more about this at the very end, is when people are having trouble struggling to reach their dreams, it typically comes down to, and there are a billion more. I'm trying to find a general things we can think of here. So forgive me if this is maybe too general, but it's a good place to look and to start. Is three things. Is number one is maybe the approach you're trying isn't based on correct information. And I'm going to give examples of that later on. But maybe what you're doing, like your program you're trying to follow, just isn't right. Maybe the stuff they're giving you, the workouts are written for, don't result in what your goal is. That unfortunately happens a lot. So people sometimes get programs that don't match their lifestyle, match their body. Maybe it just doesn't actually lead where they think it's going to lead, or the person who creates it kind of lies about it and doesn't present the information truthfully. The other thing we have is that maybe the information is correct, but it's just not possible for you even to do it. It doesn't fit your lifestyle. It's not anything that you can actually maintain for long enough time to be successful at it. Then the last one is we're just not consistent over time. So we have a good plan. It would fit our lifestyle, but we just kind of fluff around, doing it right, doing it wrong. We don't just kind of fully commit to it for the long haul. So we're going to talk more about that at the very end, on how you can decide what of those three things might be holding you back and how you can correct them. So for Jessica, she decided, that she wasn't getting any younger, and she decided to kind of change her mindset from thinking the fact that she had, kids and a family and all those responsibilities. Instead of thinking of that stuff as being what was holding her back, she changed her mindset to being that stuff is the stuff that motivated her to actually do it. So rather than thinking that her kids were, kind of a burden towards this goal, she actually used her kids as a purpose for the goal. So what better way to show your kids health than to show them physically doing it, like you doing it yourself. So you can tell your kids the right things to do, but when actually you do it yourself, that makes the biggest difference. So that's something my brother and I have talked about as we got older. Is something we always admired in our parents as we got old enough to recognize it, is anything they ever told us was the right thing to do, they also did. So we didn't get an example of where somebody would tell us something, but then they would do the opposite. Our parents lived out whatever the hell they told us was the right thing to do. They always did it. So we realized, okay, crap, we got to do it too. So that's what she wants to do with her kids, is if she wants to teach them how to take care of themselves, she has to show that example herself. And that's going to be the best way for the kids to learn. Not only hearing her words, but seeing her actions and seeing her doing it consistently over time. Truly, truly applying the lessons that she says to what she does. So, that's her kind of background, mother of 5 kids, and she had a home gym. So she was able to train at home. She had some adjustable dumbbells, some weight plates, barbell, kind of like a squat rack she could rack and unrack the bar from. She had a flat bench and some other kind of odds and ends. So what most in my world would consider a pretty basic home gym. And that's not to be negative on it. I just mean like that's kind of all you really need. So so we got her ready, and she actually did a competition with just that equipment. So you don't need fancy machines. You don't need a gym membership. So she got up. I don't even really know, to be honest, what time she woke up, but it was probably like 4:45 or 5 a.m. And she would get her workout in before her kids got up. She would just kind of, before the day got in the way, she would take care of herself. And was that a struggle at first? I'm sure as hell it was. I'm sure it was probably a struggle the whole damn time. So she was tired. She would have loved to sleep in. Maybe she had late nights with the kids, like you're dealing with different drama, family things, whatever. But she still had to get up. She still had to take care of business. She still had to get her goal met. So that's what she had. So mom of 5, okay, and she had a home gym with adjustable dumbbells, weight plates, barbell rack, bench, and some small odds and ends. So what we did for her training, okay, was in every single workout, her per workout structure was some type of warm up. It would be interval cardio, where we would do like maybe any kind of apparatus that she had available to her. So it could be a treadmill, it could be elliptical, it could be bike, whatever you would have available to you. Is we would do interval cardio, where maybe she might do a minute of as fast as or as aggressive as she could do, and then a minute of like a 5 out of 10 intensity, where you can kind of talk, but you're not stopping moving. You're still moving, but you could talk and catch your breath. And she might alternate those minutes for, say, 12 minutes total. Or some workouts, we did dynamic body weight movements, where she might do like, maybe a body weight lunge into like a reach up towards the ceiling to work on her thoracic mobility. So we would have like, just different kind of body weight exercises like inchworms, which are really good for your shoulders and abs. So we had a bunch of different stuff that she would do body weight wise to kind of get her body temperature up, get blood flowing to the joints, kind of warm up the muscles and the body for the day. Or we would do the interval cardio. But that was typically what we started with, was one of those 2 warm-ups. Then we went into our strength-based movement. So for her lower body, that was some type of a squat or some type of a deadlift. And for their upper body, it was some type of press, like a chest press, an incline press, an overhead press. And it was some type of a pull, which would be like a pull-up, like pull-up negatives, or like a dumbbell row, some kind of heavy pulling motion for her upper body. So typically the strength-based movements were rep ranges that allowed her to be under the tension of the weight around 10 to 20 seconds. There were some times where it was lower than that, where we were kind of really, really, really pushing the strength component, where she might do something that's like 5 seconds to 20 seconds. But that was pretty much our range. It was never really 1 rep maxes. That doesn't really help build strength. That's more so just a test of strength. But we would often do sets of 3s as like our heavy thing. Maybe sets of 5s or 6 is kind of the mid-range, top end heavy. So in terms of like high reps. So it was always somewhere between probably say 5 to 20 seconds of time or attention per set. And she'd typically do anywhere from 3 to 5 sets of those exercises. Okay? So 3 to 5 sets of somewhere around 5 to 20 seconds of time or attention. Then we would do volume work, which would be more free weight exercises. So different types of squats or deadlifts or lunges or, step ups. At one point in time, she threatened to kill me if I put more step ups into her program. So we would do stuff like that. You would do like goblet squats. There's a whole bunch of other craziness out there, RDLs, and some other barbell based movements as well. For upper body, if she did a chest press strength movement, maybe we do an overhead press volume movement. Or vice versa. If she did overhead press strength, we would do a chest press volume. Or we do push-ups and push-up negatives and stuff like that. We do different types of rows, like different variations of dumbbell rows, dual bent over rows. We would do barbell rows. There's a bunch of variations of those. It would just be more free weight exercises. We would usually focus on some type of unilateral component, meaning like each side was independent of the other. So that way she could work on strengthening herself from side to side, and the percentage of focus of what we worked on was highlighted under her weaker areas. So if she has really strong and well-developed quads, we wouldn't really do any extra volume work on the quads. Everything else would be more hamstrings and glute based, so that we could create more balance to her body. And the same thing for the upper body was if her shoulders were lacking in size, we would try to get more shoulder work in compared to other muscle groups. Or if we wanted to get her more detail in her upper back, we would add more upper back work compared to other muscle groups. So that was her volume work, which you consider as like her way of building more muscle in her weak areas, shaping the muscle she had, and then also burning more calories, kind of getting more of a caloric debt, so that would help us burn more body fat throughout the day. So that was basically her training, her per workout structure. And then, like every once in a while, we'd address things that were needed, like posture. We would address that in like the exercises we chose. They might be more challenging towards holding her correct posture, or we might address posture in the dynamic warm up. Excuse me for a second. So we would address it in the dynamic warm up, where maybe she would do some type of postural based exercise like YTWs, cobra wings, cobra raises, they're sometimes called. We would do different thoracic rotations, just different things that would address posture, but that would be in her dynamic warm up on her upper body based days. So typically for her, we did 3 lower body, 2 upper body days throughout the week. Those are 5 workouts. So we would include things like hip strengthening. So that we work on glute size, but also just hip strength. So that was stuff we would again throw in with like exercise selections, doing different positions of deadlifts, like teaching her how to do sumo deadlifts and conventional deadlifts and RDLs, like single leg lunges, reverse lunges, step ups, stuff that really address the hips. It would be in the exercise selection, or we would address it with a dynamic warm up. So she would do body weight based hip things like figure 4 raises, and there's other odds and ends we would throw into like her dynamic warm up that would help her address her hips as well. And then abs and core, sometimes they were included in the volume work, sometimes they were included in the warm up. But those components can kind of be addressed in a bunch of different places within the workout, but we definitely had them in there. So not only were we working on the aesthetics of her, like how she looked, we were also working on her health. So the strength movements helped to make sure she was strong. She had good, strong connective tissue, and to some degree would have helped fight osteoporosis. So you have to have pretty heavy weight on you, though, to kind of like reverse osteoporosis. But we would have been able to fight that off to some degree. We addressed posture. We addressed hip strengthening, which also addresses your posture, by the way. And we addressed core and abs. So we were able to not only make her look good, but make her healthier and improve her longevity of health as well. So like I said, they were 5 workouts a week, 3 lower body, 2 upper body. They were about 50, 60-minute workouts. We very rarely did we ever go over an hour. And only towards the very end of the prep did we start adding in extra workouts, which were like yoga and Pilates type workouts that were like 10 to 20 minutes long. So those were like more so like mini extra workouts. So that's what she did for the bulk of our time together. Was 5 workouts a week, 50 to 60 minutes per workout, and we followed the same structure we talk about in every freaking podcast about training, is some type of movement prep warm-up, like dynamic warm-up, getting her body ready for the work, strength movement, and then everything else. So that's kind of the way it works. Now, real quick on her diet, even though this is a training podcast, sure, meal timing, she had some calories before her workout and into her workout. So that way her body wasn't running on fumes. She wasn't running an empty machine. She was actually using the calories that she was consuming. But that way it allowed her to burn off like the food rather than having to burn off her muscle tissue and create a deficit, a stress deficit as well at the beginning of the day. So when people work out fasted or without food, it's actually really detrimental to fat loss, and it's very detrimental to the whole process of building your body. It's more like you're tearing your body apart. So you have to have calories before you work out. That's going to make a much better progress long-term to being strong, muscular, and lean. There's just a bajillion reasons for that. So if you're unsure of why, shoot me an email and I'll give you more details. But we had a pre-workout and an intra-workout kind of calories. Then after her workout, she would have more calories. And then we had a breakfast, mid-morning, lunch, mid-afternoon, and evening. So you could see there is we actually consumed very frequent meals. So there was calories consumed before and during her workout. They can call that as kind of 1. There was calories consumed right after her workout. That would be 2. Then she had breakfast, mid-morning, lunch, mid-afternoon, and evening. So that's like 6 to 7 meals a day. And by meals, we just mean time she's taking in calories. So there's 6 to 7 times a day that she got to consume food. So when people think they're doing a good diet and they're only eating 2 or 3 times a day, that is not good. That is not the best way to be lean. So you want to fuel your body very small little bursts of calories evenly throughout your activities of the day. So you kind of like, if you're hyperactive at one part of the day, you would have more calories around that time. If you're less active around another part of the day, you'd have less calories at that time. So your calorie goals, like your calorie intake, should match your activity. So we've talked about that before as well. And then her meal structure was she had protein, some kind of protein every meal, and then she'd have a carb or a fat with that protein. So carbs were around times she was more active, fats around times when she was less active. And we found for her that as we continued down the diet and we wanted to get her leaner and leaner, as we wanted to get her leaner, we found that if we switched to protein and fats, that she tended to be able to get leaner a little bit as compared to protein and carbs. So that was something we made a change as we got closer and closer to the competition. But I have had clients who did all carbs basically and very little fats with their protein the whole way up to a show, and they had 6-pack abs and veins everywhere. So it really is a personal preference. People respond differently. So you would have to kind of practice and try yours and see what you respond better from. So, but that shows that with her food intake, as long as we have protein, we would follow the typical rules anybody would follow, is you do carbs at times of more activity and fats at times of less activity. So that's really it. When you look at her training and her nutrition, nothing fancy was needed. There was no amazing special thing we did. So we just consumed foods in the manner in which we teach in this podcast, but we controlled it and made sure that everything was kind of like pinpointed accurate. Then in her training, again, we followed the same things we teach in every podcast. We just made sure everything was pinpointed and accurate. So for her training, if we wanted to build strength, we understood the time under tension ranges and the rep ranges that built strength. So we weren't doing, something for 60 seconds thinking it was making her stronger. That is not what strength builds strength. And same thing, if we want to build muscle and she's doing stuff at like 20 reps, which might take her like, a minute or a minute and a half to do, and it's really light, fluffy weight, that's not going to build muscle. So you have to move some heavy shit. You have to actually tear the muscle up to get it to grow. So that's something we had to really pay attention to, and thankfully this is kind of stuff we already do, but people in general should pay attention to, is often in their programming, they think they're getting something from their effort. So they think they're doing X to build strength, but they don't have the correct parameters to even build strength. So they might think it's doing it, but they don't have it set up correctly for it. And then for her cardio, we never did more than 20 minutes of cardio, ever. Nothing was steady state where she just did a certain pace for the whole time. Everything was interval based, or we did muscle cardio where I had her move lighter weights in circuits and supersets and stuff like that with short rest periods. So we used weights for our cardio, or we did interval based cardio, nothing over 20 minutes. So a mother of 5 was able to do a figure show, okay, and she did well. She placed first, so she looked the part. So she was able to do that. Okay, 5 workouts a week, just an hour each time, and never more than 20 minutes of cardio. And that was within the hour workout, by the way. So it wasn't like she had to do the cardio on top of the training. It was in the training. So that's all it took. Just the same stuff we teach all the time. It's just you're going to maintain adherence to it and accountability to it. So that's going to be the big things when you look at what is going to make you successful. Okay? As we said, the 3 components of success is the approach you're using based on correct information? Is the information applied to your lifestyle and your needs specifically? And are you consistent with your effort over time? Those are the components of success. So if you feel like you are not successful towards your goal, which of those 3 are you missing? Are you consistent? Are you super dedicated? You always show up? and you've made your life fit what the parameters are. So you made your lifestyle, everything works. You're doing it, you're showing up every day, you're consistent, and you made sure it fits your lifestyle. But it's not working. Then maybe you're doing the wrong stuff. So I have a client. I want to be super vague because they're not going to. Well, anyhow, let me just not say everything I'm thinking out loud. Anyhow, so there are people who maybe work towards strength, but they don't do the things that are correct to build strength. So there are people who do CrossFit, for example, and they wonder why they never really get stronger at like squats and deadlifts. Now, I'm about to piss off anybody who does CrossFit, and I don't mean this um, in every single case basis. But anybody who does CrossFit, especially if you're a teacher, you're going to see that there's some truth to what I'm about to say, even though you might not like it. But often CrossFit is taught in large groups to where specifics of technique and form are not taught on an individual basis. So it's kind of like a one size fits all squat teaching, one size fits all deadlift teaching. And then often the activities that they do around squats and deadlifts are all mediumly weighted, and it's all done for like time and fast and kind of more like cardio burst circuits. So it's muscle cardio. So they're doing muscle cardio and they're doing a couple strength based movements, but typically what I find most commonly programmed in CrossFit is they're either doing 1 rep maxes or they're doing too light of weight. So, like I saw one program recently, somebody sent me, and one of the workouts to build strength is 60% for 5 reps, 5 sets of 5 reps. So 60% of their 1 rep max, which is ridiculously light, for 5 reps. And they're doing 5 sets of 5 reps. And that was their workout. I could understand if that was meant to be working on technique. But the person is working out in a group of freaking 15 to 20 people. There's no way they're working on individualized, personalized technique. And I know this because I've seen their technique. So they actually come to me to learn technique because they did not learn it in their group. So I don't mean to shit on CrossFit because I actually like CrossFit, by the way. I actually really do. It's a freaking tastic way for people to lose weight. It's super fun because you get a community. There's a lot of accountability to it. So I actually am a big fan of CrossFit. But if I was doing CrossFit with the purpose of trying to get strong as I could be, it's not really the best way to do it. Just like if I was doing powerlifting and my goal was to be the most athletic I could be, powerlifting would be a pretty damn stupid choice because everything you do is stagnant. So you're standing still when you squat, you're standing still when you deadlift, and you're laying down when you bench press. There's really no athletic style movements. So I don't think powerlifting is a very good way to build an athlete. Just like CrossFit isn't really a good way to build a strength athlete, okay? To build strength. So now, are there exceptions? Absolutely. But the point is you have to make sure that whatever you're doing is actually applicable to what you want to be the outcome. So we've talked about the time under tensions. So activities of 0 to 10 seconds, really they're just testing your strength. Exercises of 10 to 20 seconds are more so building your strength, assuming your technique is solid. Activities of like 20 to 30 seconds are kind of heavy, still some strength building, but now you're getting the muscular damage and you get into some bodybuilding effects if you are to eat in excess calories. You actually start to build muscle from activities of 20 to 30 seconds. 30 to 40 seconds is kind of mediumly weighted bodybuilding stuff. Not going to really get much strength out of that. You can get technique reinforcement, which might lead to more strength produced in terms of your ability to show your strength. Might increase, but your actual strength won't increase from activities of 30 to 40 seconds. You can build muscle there, and then muscle has a chance in the long run to become stronger when trained for strength. So you can see how there's indirect ways to build strength, but activities of 30 to 40 seconds don't directly build strength. Okay? Now, there are some exceptions. If you can deadlift, 500 pounds for 30 seconds, yeah, that's going to build some strength. Okay? But most people, when you get into 30, 40-second activities, they can't do stuff very heavy. So it's not going to create a lot of systemic damage into their nervous system. So they're not going to get a much strength kind of response. So you have to make sure that what you're doing actually relates to what you want your outcome to be. So if you are consistent and you've made what you're doing your lifestyle, okay, you can show up consistently with it, you can do it for the long term, but it's just not working, then maybe you're doing the wrong stuff. Okay, you need to recheck your details, make sure it's correct for what you want your outcome to be. Maybe you have the correct information and you're doing the best you can with it, but it's always a struggle. Like you can kind of make it work for a week or two, but then it doesn't work, when something else comes up. You can, try to do it this way, that way, but just something else gets in the way. So it sometimes can be correct information and you're trying your best at it, but it just doesn't fit your lifestyle or your personal needs in terms of the personal approach. So, for example, I've seen this all the time with powerlifters, is they'll copy and paste a program or get a copy and pasted program of someone else. They'll try it, and their recovery abilities are not the same as the person who is doing the program. So what they'll do is they'll come in, they'll try their best at it, but they're going to feel beat up and like, oh my God, I just couldn't keep up with it. Like it was too much for me. I tried to do a couple weeks worth and I just kind of faded out. I couldn't hit the numbers. I couldn't hit the percentages. I just couldn't keep up with the program. Well, that program wasn't personalized. So it wasn't applied to your needs. It was correct information for someone else, but it wasn't personalized to your needs and your lifestyle, your approach. So that happens all the time is you have people who want to be consistent. They have all the desire in the world. And the information they're getting was correct at one point in time for some person, but it's not correct for them. So they need to find out how to fit that to their lifestyle. They can either, play with it and try and figure it out. So, for example, if you start having, you can't recover to the workouts, and maybe the exercises are written for 4 sets, try just doing them for 3 sets. Try to cut down the volume but keep the intensity. So that way you still get the muscular damage and the strength response. But you can cut down the volume. Okay, cut the working sets in half. See if you can recover from that. Or you can get the coach to write it for you. And if you paid the coach to write the one that made you worn out, take your money back. Okay, go find a coach who won't beat the shit out of you. So there are times where you have to push your limits, but you can still do what's on the program. Okay. Or maybe there's one bad workout out of 20 to 30. But if you just have to flat out stop a program because you can't recover for it, then that is not a correct program. Okay? Then the last thing you think of is if you have a correct approach and it fits your lifestyle when you do it, but you're just not consistent. Okay? Sometimes you're hot and cold. Sometimes you want to do it. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're motivated. Sometimes you're not. So it works when you do it, but you have to do it. Okay? So in those cases, you just have to find your reason why. Like, why are you going to do it? What's your motivation? You have to track your adherence so you can actually see the effort you're putting in. And you have to be accountable. You have to create some accountability. That could be hiring a trainer. That could be training with a training partner. That could be checking in on social media. So sometimes people kind of, will laugh and get annoyed like, geez whiz, so-and-so's posting that they're at the gym again. Well, if that's what got so-and-so into the gym, what the hell do you care? Okay, if you don't like it, unfollow them. But if that's what they're using to get themselves motivated and get themselves happy and healthy, then that's good. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm glad they're annoying you with it. Okay? So you have to create some accountability, and there are many ways to do that. So sometimes that's the case. So there are people who have the correct information presented to them. It would fit their lifestyle. It is personalized, but they're just not motivated, or they can't give up old beliefs. So I had a client come in one time, and she had really bad knees, and she wanted to lose weight. And she said, every time I do da-da-da-da-da, it always works for me. And what da-da-da-da-da was a lot of lightweight lifting, but a ton of cardio. It was basically just like an hour or two on the treadmill walking. And she's like, it always works for me. So, and I'm like, oh, really? Why are you overweight then? So if you're coming to me because you have bad knees and you're overweight, and the thing you used to always do used to always work, why hasn't it worked? Like if something worked, the job is done. So if something worked to help you lose weight and you don't have weight off, it didn't work. That's an odd argument. But that comes up quite a bit. So I've had people like that, and they're like, and I'll tell them a different way. I'm like, hey, you got to fix your knees. So for that particular client, I said, listen, you got to fix your knees. It's not healthy the way you're doing things. You're moving incorrectly, and you're actually kind of exacerbating your knee injuries. You're making things worse. So let's take some time. Let's heal your knees up first. Okay, and in that process, you'll burn calories, you'll lose some weight, but then we'll focus in on weight loss. And she didn't want to do that. She wanted to kind of go back to her old ways, and she didn't join. She didn't use me as a trainer. She went back and did her own ways, And I did see her later on, and she was still overweight. So it's kind of a bummer. I feel bad for her. So, but sometimes people won't give up their old beliefs, and they won't give up old ways of thinking. So think about this: is if what you're doing actually worked, why don't you already have the goal met? Okay. If what you're doing would make you strong, you'd be strong. If what you're doing would help you lose weight, you'd already have the weight off. If what you're doing built the body that you wanted, you'd already have the body you wanted. So sometimes when people are presented with new things, okay, so again, the whole point of us playing this game was, what are you missing? Like, if you are not successful, okay, so clearly if what you're doing is giving you success and you're making progress, great, awesome, do it, keep going. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. What I'm saying is, whenever you keep doing what you think is right, but it isn't leading anywhere, you're not getting results, then you have to be open to change. Okay? So you have to figure out, what are you missing, and go get it. So for Jess, what she was missing was the right information. So we got her the right information. She's one tough, mentally tough human being, so she was able to do it. Okay, we made it fit her lifestyle. We figured out how it would fit with, some inconvenience for sure. It's not going to be super convenient to get up at 5 a.m. and work out every day, but it was within her lifestyle. I didn't tell her she had to join a membership. I didn't tell her she had to go work out, 3 hours every